I'm hitting record on Audacity.
Okay. I have to test my Audacity. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. I'll try and speak more into my microphone this time so I can not have the issue I had last time.
I met Tom's mom and she said, I love y'all's podcast. I love your little outfits and your big perspectives.
That's amazing. Tell her to write it in a review, please.
I was like,
thank you.
I didn't know what to say. It's the very first thing she said to me. So I was like, thank you.
That's fucking awesome. Like, so let's have a chat about your son.
But your little outfits and your big perspectives.
It's amazing. It's amazing. If
Really
any guy
funny.
would say that to me, I would be excited
it reminded
about
me
it.
of my mom. And then she said, you know who y'all remind me of? The lady in that alien movie that has the tall aliens and then it ends with the alien with the one big eye and it's all blue. And I was like, she was completely serious.
What?
I know. I know.
You're like, I'll take that as a compliment.
Tom looked super annoyed.
Really?
Yeah. Or embarrassed.
Did you like her though?
Yeah, I liked her a lot.
That's good. Oh, let's clap. That's what I was gonna say. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, and we are recording on all spots. I like that I don't have to do much of anything until I have to do everything.
Oh, John, use that as our blooper at the end. That's funny. All right, ready? Wait,
what?
Are you recording on Zoom? Oh, yeah, okay. Because you said you didn't have to do anything. It made me nervous.
Yeah. You're like, wait, what does she have to do?
Okay. Welcome, boys and babes, to our little life-giving podcast we so gratefully live our bliss through. It's the Magic Hour, a place where we navigate through life's peaks and valleys with all the shamelessness. This is Mercedes' line.
You're doing great, Jade. With all the vulnerability and
You're not
shamelessness
supposed to be here yet. We uncover new truths and valuable tools for manifesting our highest potential. You might be wondering why I'm butchering my co-host lines for the intro to the show, and it's because she is our beloved guest today. It's our 1-year anniversary of the show, so we've got 2 back-to-back episodes where we interview each other. And I've learned so much this last year in our late night Skype sessions while rehearsing and prior to jumping on with the guests. But you guys don't get to hear the behind the scenes, of course. So I'm so excited to be able to interview her and let you guys get to know her even more because she is one of the brightest and boldest lights in my life. So without further ado, this bio is very long, you guys. Without further ado, let me introduce a woman who constantly reminds those who listen to the show, as well as those who follow her, the beauty of you already are. As an experienced and professional model, she started the movement #KeepItRealish, asking people to take responsibility for what they post and the effect it has, to be rigorously authentic, changing the culture to believe being healthy in mind, body, spirit is the goal instead of looking a certain way. She's been a Bellator ring girl for a decade, you guys, and that says a lot in itself. But moreover, she's spent the better part of her life being a truth seeker, constantly leaning into the gray and looking for the deeper meaning in order to navigate through her own struggles. She truly does the work to better herself and become more conscious, even being sort of a human guinea pig to just try anything to see if it can in some way benefit her health spiritually, mentally, or physically, while we reap all the benefits. She views others as an opportunity to experience another angle of the universe, with an ability to tune into them with pure curiosity, giving them what we all need and crave, to be seen. This also makes her one of the most excellent listeners I've ever known, on top of being able to analyze effortlessly. She courageously lives in abundance in a way that constantly sheds light to where I may be living in lack. And she is the living, walking version of my favorite poem, The Invitation. Now, as the host of a top ranked podcast, she has answered her calling to be a world renowned sacred space holder and prolific healer by sharing her logic, wisdom, and mysticism as her way to be a light to others, the way she's always been to me. Like me, she's both a lover and a magician, but she's also my travel buddy as we journey into the gray together on the soul quest. Please welcome the yin to my yang, the grace to my Frankie, one of my safe places, touchstones, and armrests to my soul when it's weary. She's my sister who has never not been there in my time of need, which has saved me more times than I can count. My partner in shine, Mercedes Terrell, to the magic hour.
Oh.
So long.
And breathe. I loved that. That was super sweet. I got chilled a couple times. I almost dropped a tear, which is weird for me.
It's also my application to Hallmark.
It's also the application to Hallmark. Perfect. I want that card, every holiday. What is I know you've mentioned the invitation about a bazillion times, but what's the actual words to that poem?
Oh, I mean, I have it framed right here, but it would take probably 5 whole minutes to read. But it's
that long?
Yeah, it's a long one, but it's like basically, I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care how much money you have or who you know. I want to know like what lights your soul on fire. I want to know like what keeps you up at night. And if you can lean into your own pain instead of run from it. And if you can sit with my pain instead of running from it, it's really freaking good. Everyone, magic trick to start the show.
Go read the poem.
Go read The Invitation.
But that does remind me, we just took that
16 personalities
test. Yeah, it's like the Myers-Briggs test or some spin-off of it. And
I like it better than the Enneagram for sure.
I totally like it better than the Enneagram.
The Enneagram's just a trend, I think.
I thought it was spot on
me
for
too.
me. The 16
the Enneagram test. I keep switching numbers all the time. I think it's just like it's just like trendy right now to say like I'm a 7.
Yeah.
But I rather say my 16 personality.
Yeah, I think the Enneagram they try to keep it so short and concise that it's not human, because that's not what humans are.
Yeah. Whereas the 16 personalities, it goes on for a really long time.
For sure. I love it.
But yeah, read The Invitation. If you really want to knock a girl's socks off, read it to her on your first date.
I'm going to read that, but what you already described there does sound very much like me. So I'm glad that you're seeing that in me. Thank you for that.
I did look at your 16 personalities to pull some info.
Nice. You're like, wait, and she's a Gemini. So now I have to do double the work. What is going
funny. On? A Gemini is two personalities, right? Is that the two?
Two. Yeah. The twins. Yeah.
Yeah.
People like to call it bipolar, and I'm only bipolar sometimes, but that doesn't have to do with me being Gemini.
So we do have a lot of fan questions that we'll get to, but first off, I wanted to talk about how your relationship with your mother usually ends up shaping your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with your father usually ends up shaping your relationship with those around you or how you see the world. So I wanted to ask, what was your relationship with each parent, and what was that relationship like, but also how did that statement play out to be true for you?
Yeah. Okay. So it's a big, big, big question.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that I'll try not to give you my whole life story, but let's be real. That's worked for me in the past.
Well, this interview is yours.
So my relationship with my mother and how it relates to my relationship with myself. Okay, so my mother, Susan, I don't know if we should name names on here, but I love her dearly.
I love you, Susan.
And she loves you, Jade. We're very close now. We went through not so much turbulence in my younger years, but definitely took a journey to get to where we are now. We went to one of our first counseling sessions together, just like last week.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Me and my mom are not at that point, but
Yeah, I mean,
that
we've done
sounds
a lot
amazing.
of spending time in quiet together, you know? We do a lot of
Yeah,
that type
that's
of thing,
so
or like
cool.
long road trips together, that
Yeah.
type of thing. So you really have to dig through some stuff at that point.
Wow.
But I also might just mention that we resent our parents for all the things that we think they should do, and then we take for granted all the things that they did do. So I just think it's important to um, remember that we're all doing our best. It's something I truly believe. A lot of people, when I say this out loud, they go, I don't think that's true, but I believe we're all doing our best, considering the domestications that make us us. We're all individual. We have all different backgrounds. And so from that place, we're doing the very best we can. And that includes my parents. Um,
That's
right.
something I wish I would have prefaced my interview with. And I've been thinking about that all day today. So I'm glad you said that.
No, you totally did say something like that. It wasn't
Yeah, but
exactly that, but
like,
you
wouldn't,
said,
yeah.
I feel like
They're
that point
all,
came
yeah.
across though in your
But
interview.
yeah, all of our parents, they are also hurting children, just like we are hurting
Totally.
children. And we're all doing the best we can. But yeah, I think that that's important always when telling our story.
Yeah. So my mom, she was definitely an example of independence for me. My primary example of what independence looked like. She just always was like okay on her own. She would just head out to the desert when she needed to just be alone for a minute on a whim. My parents split when I was 5. So we had been living on my grandparents' farm in like the mother-in-law casita for pretty much, I think, my whole life up until 5. Um, my grandparents, just to give you a little history on that, they like created the first trash company in Orange County, when Orange County was just orange groves, literally. Um, and my grandpa like owned some of the land that Disney ended up buying from them and building Disneyland on. So a lot of history in Orange County. And because they owned the first trash company, my parents, down the line, purchased it from them. Actually, my aunt and uncle purchased it from them first, and then my parents purchased it from them. But anyway, it ended up in my parents' hands, and they did pretty well with that business, and it was pretty lucrative. And so they took that money and they began building their dream home. And this is in Yorba Linda, California, where they put like tons of time and effort building this home into something that they thought was, you know, to par with whatever they had always hoped. And I remember it even at that age being like, I love this house. There was like a pool with, it was like a huge pool with these big lion head fountain things that would spit water into the pool, like on the sides of, I don't know, it's just very luxurious. And then
Yeah.
it had like white carpets and marble floors, and I had a humongous playroom that where
Oh,
all the
nice.
walls were like padded with carpet. Now everything, of course,
What?
yeah, I was like 5 years old, you know what I mean? But yeah, so it was like a playroom just for us kids. Like all my
Mm-hmm.
cousins would come over and we'd have a blast. We couldn't hurt ourselves because the walls like had carpet
Mm-hmm.
up halfway. And we had like these really cool rooms where the beds were like custom built into the top, like above the closet. So you'd have to
Mm-hmm.
crawl up these ladders that are built into the wall to get into your bed and stuff.
That's so cool.
And I was so young that they wouldn't let me sleep in that because they didn't want me falling out of it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I never got to do that. But I just remember this house was like rad, you know, like I was excited to be living in this house.
Yeah.
And then literally 6 months or so, like very shortly into our time, finally moved into that house after years of it being built and years of us living in this little tiny 1 bedroom house on my grandparents' farm. Um, my mom decided she wanted to split. And so, of course, you know, our lives get uprooted and suddenly I wasn't safe. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
from that point on, that's like the last time I remember feeling safe before my parents split. And then it, it uprooted my life at that age. You know, you're 5 years old. You're just trying to figure out how to be an individual in the first place. And then suddenly everything that you've gotten used to is like, oh, just kidding. It's going to all change. We're going to live separately. We're going to do all these different things than you're used to. And so, yeah, I just didn't feel safe. And I really resisted the change. I resented my mother. I don't think I ever like voiced that. Even to this day, I don't think I've really voiced it um, to the point. But when I was little, I mean, I was pissed that they weren't together, and I wasn't really blaming it on one or the other. I was just kind of pissed that they
Yeah.
just decided to do that. And neither of them really blamed it blatantly on each other. Um, they were pretty good about not making that, part of what me and my sister were witnessing. So anyway, after the separation, my mom, she wasn't around like probably for a year or two. I just remember she wasn't around much. Like she would check in and stuff, but I don't remember her like really having a place like that we would go visit her. She would come to my dad's. We had got a different house. They had to sell the big house that we were living in, and we got into this other place, and she would visit from time to time. And then, so, like my bond to my dad was really building because he was there, and he was like the closest thing that I had to safety, I guess, at that time. And my mom, she's still to this day, like she's the same person, she's like wildly independent. She's curious and daring and adventurous and like for sure whimsical. Playful. She's like super playful. Even with like my sister's kids, she's a very playful person. So she's super fun to be around. And in business, she's like thorough and always shows up. So I think I found ways to step into my mom's entrepreneurial shoes, like when she, even at that young age. I remember my dad has this story about, I was around age 5, and this was during the time that my mom wasn't, around much. She was out traveling, and she had like a boyfriend or something. I don't know. She was doing her thing. She was maybe like sowing her wild oats, So I was 5-ish, and I had decided to make a little business. I didn't tell anyone about that. I took a bunch of like white printer paper, construction paper. And I took my crayons and I colored all the papers into like American flags. And then I sandwiched 2 pieces of those American flag papers onto like a stick that I found in the backyard. I did that a bunch of times, so I made a bunch of flags with like sticks from the backyard and these like papers that I'd colored into flags. So they look like little flags on a little tiny pole, And then I took my sister, who was 4 at the time, and didn't tell anyone. And we just, I said, we're going to go sell these things here. And so we went from, neighbor to neighbor, knocking on doors, alone, by the way, and trying to sell these things for 50
I did the same thing, but offering to paint people's nails. 50 cents.
I love
it. It was just so I could buy Airheads from the ice cream man.
Oh, amazing. Well, what happened when the guy answered the door?
There was usually some kid in there, and he'd let me paint their nails. I was making like $250 a day.
Not bad. Yeah. So I'm knocking door to door. I actually ended up, like a few people, obviously we're like a 5 and a 4-year-old. They're like, where are your parents? But yes, we'll buy one of these cute
Seriously,
flags.
yeah.
Or they'd be like, 50 cents, that's a lot of money. I'd be like, 35 cents, let's make a deal. I was haggling at that age. And I did pretty well. I sold what I needed to do. I think I was already trying to, put my, I had to bring some income to the household or something. So I wasn't super close to my mom when I was young because of all that turbulence. And maybe a story that relates to that is when I started my period, I was at my dad's house. My dad wasn't home, but I was at my dad's house, and I thought, like, who should I call? Like, when you start your period as a girl, like that's like a really important moment.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And you kind of need to like let your parents know because you don't really know exactly what to do, know? And so I called my dad, and my dad's like, why are you calling me? Like, why aren't you calling your mom? Or at this point, he had a girlfriend who we lived in her house at this point.
That's funny.
And he's
why
like,
are you calling me?
Yeah, he's like, well, he didn't say that. He didn't shame me or anything about it. He just said,
Call a lady.
Yeah, call like, well, I can't really. He said, okay, well, thanks for letting me know, but I'm not sure I have a lot of advice for you on this, so maybe you can call, his
Yeah.
girlfriend or my mom or.
Mine was the exact opposite. I started mine on a roller coaster, which was
Oh,
traumatizing.
you're
And
like,
then
this roller coaster got me bleeding.
and it was heavy
Oh
as
my
heck.
God.
And then I tried to tell my mom, and she passed me off to her boyfriend.
Oh my God. Literally the opposite.
It's the opposite, the yin to the yang. She couldn't handle it.
Oh my God. That's amazing. What did he do for you?
Honestly, I don't remember. I think I blacked it out.
You're like, never mind. I'm going next door to the neighbors where somebody can help me with a tampon.
I probably did. I wore the tampon with the extra cardboard piece for like 2 years.
My God.
And I thought these hurt so bad. Exactly. I would cry every time because I was like, these hurt so bad. And then one time I went to like a water park and I was crying because it was hurting me. And my friend was like, I told her something about like the cardboard part is the part that's hurting me. And she was like, you're supposed to take that off.
That is amazing.
2 years I did that.
That is amazing. Firstly, ow. And I also, it took me, I read directions thoroughly on everything.
Never,
let me tell you.
Never me.
Thoroughly. Like I am so like the directions reader. You know what I mean? So like on the tampon box, it has like visual photos.
Yeah.
And about the
this is how we balance
syndrome.
Each other out.
I was
my God.
I might get this, like this could be an issue. I need to know about this. And I had horror stories like
I didn't read one.
First of all, it took me like, I don't even know, probably 3 hours to insert my first tampon, which was like an ultra slender one.
The ultra slender.
And it was, my mom bought me these damn, the first time, you use a pad or something at first or whatever you use, but then my mom bought me these damn Tampax, Tampax, the originals, so they have like the cotton exposed on the top. Let me tell you, when you have not had anything go up in that area, that can be painful as hell.
Yeah, especially if you're not taking the cardboard off.
Yeah.
God. I think it's why I don't use them now. I think I'm traumatized.
You know what? It's a good thing we didn't know each other at that age, because we would have given each other the worst advices with this situation. Oh God. One of my friends, I remember her mom telling me.
We did.
My best friend at the time, actually, later, she told us this horror story about when she had her first tampon. She inserted it upside down. I don't know how that was even possible. And so the string went up in the inside, so she couldn't get it out. And she called the fire department. What? How old are you? What fire department's going to help you with getting a tampon out?
I want to know what they said when she called the fire department. Oh my God. Oh, we're getting off track.
Okay. So anyways, the reason I didn't to call my mom about this also, I think, is likely because we did not talk about periods, farts, poops, anything around this,
Yeah,
there's a lot of shame around this, and it's it's caused a lot of long-term damage for me. Not so much on the period side of things, although just like our culture generally is shaming us about that. But just for me, it was like anything coming out of my body, like especially poops or farts, that was like an issue for me. Like I was to just pretend that girls do not do that. We don't talk about it. We don't act like that ever even happens.
It's just like a cat. They hide their poop right away.
Literally my spirit animal since day one. So I spent a lot of time in physical pain because I had such severe like issues with my gut, and I didn't think I could discuss it with anyone, because that was kind of like what was said, like, this isn't stuff we talk about, and I suffered with severe chronic constipation, and then like bouts of extreme diarrhea for like 15 years before finding any solutions. And I didn't even know that I was supposed to like find a solution. Literally, I thought everyone had the same feelings. I thought everyone was in pain the way I was in pain, and that
I thought everyone pooped every 3 days and that's it.
Like, that's fucking crazy.
That's because of a lot of what we were eating, putting in our bodies.
Oh, for sure. So like what I was eating, My hormonal cycles getting turned on, and that, because I remember this
Mhm.
becoming a real problem when I was like in high school. So that's when I,
Mhm.
had started my period by then. My hormones were getting going and doing their thing, and or apparently not doing enough of whatever their thing was supposed to be because it was hindering me, um, my gut, and I was eating terribly.
Yeah,
When I say
me too.
terribly, I mean I
Me
thought I
too.
was totally normal. I had no idea that I was eating terribly until later.
Oh no,
Um,
my favorite meal was the 99-cent tacos at Jack in the Box.
oh yeah, I was with that all day long. That's easy. I mean, whatever. Arby's, Carl's Jr., all the
Yep.
fast foods. That was like
Yep.
a normal diet in my
Me too.
household.
Me too.
And even in like my dad's house where
I'm not gonna say I don't miss it. I crave it still sometimes, but
I
I have not had
know.
it since high school.
Wow. Well, good for you. I live behind an In-N-Out. I make them do it protein style at least,
That's
and no
funny.
cheese. Anyway, no, but I definitely had no idea that I was damaging myself to that degree. And but the thing is that because I got so desperate in all that, it caused me, it was a major part of why I began like seeking for some answers. And so my gut being a disaster and always being in pain, always being embarrassed because I didn't know when I was gonna need to like go to the bathroom next, um, became like one of the pressures that caused me to find answers.
Mhm.
And I started seeing Western doctors, saw gastroenterologists. Of course, they just like tell you, oh, yeah,
Mhm.
just take this
Mhm.
laxative or this pill or whatever, and you're
Mhm.
going to be fine. And then they'll send you out of the office in like
Yeah.
literally 3 minutes. I mean, like,
Mhm.
seriously, guys, they're
They don't
like,
even listen really.
no, they don't listen to anything. They just push on your stomach. Oh, does this hurt? And you're like, no.
Mhm.
And then they're like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll take a laxative. You'll be fine. It's like,
Yeah, when I
whoa.
was 15, I went in for shortness of breath, and they
Hmm.
were gonna prescribe to me Xanax at 15 years old. Can you imagine if
Wow.
I started taking Xanax at 15 years old?
For shortness of breath, too. It wasn't like,
Shortness
I
of
mean, that could
breath.
be about a bazillion things, but also I don't know. Okay, don't get us started on that. We know how, obviously we started this podcast because of these reasons. um, so yeah, I started seeing doctors. First, I started obviously with Western doctors. That's all I knew at the time. I started going to a nutritionist then because it wasn't working with the Western
Mhm.
doctor. So I just started like looking in Yelp and in the phone book, like, well, there wasn't a phone
Mhm.
book, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
finding other options with keywords, like here's what I need help with. And I type it in and see what comes up in my area. And so saw a nutritionist, homeopathic doctors, um, all kinds of people in Eastern medicine. And they all helped little by little. Like each thing was like, okay, it was a win. I'd be like, okay, that helped a little. That helped a little. I definitely was not near getting
Mhm.
completely healed, but I could see that I was going in the right direction. My
Mhm.
body was responding. I think even just because I was finally paying attention to it, it was
Mhm.
like, yes, let's do this. Um, and it wasn't really until I looked at my hormonal functioning, um, which by the way I had tested by Western doctors, and they had told me, oh no, all your panels are fine, you're within the normal ranges,
Hmm.
there's no issues there. But if this is really a problem, we can prescribe you a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, some sort of Prozac, some sort of
Hmm.
SSRI. I was like, huh, like how is that gonna help all
It's
these
just
issues?
what they want to give us. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, I was beginning to have all kinds of issues with panic, anxiety, depression, because I was so toxic, from
Mhm.
all this stuff stuck in my
Mhm.
body. But yeah, like I said, so it wasn't until I started looking at my hormonal function, and really starting to get educated on that, my microbiome, and like figuring out what that meant. I heard that term from time to time when I was like trying to
Mhm.
do research, and I started diving deeper into that, figuring out how to colonize the type of bacteria I
Yeah.
want in my gut and that would help my system work better. And then specifically figuring out and educating myself on how the digestive system works. So
Mhm.
from literally like when you even look at food that you're going to eat and your brain knows that, okay, I'm going to eat that, so your saliva and the enzymes that
Mhm.
you need start being processed, and then you begin eating it, the saliva starts the breakdown process, you swallow it, it goes into your stomach, you have to have enough acid and the right kind of acid to, the right pH in your stomach in order to break down whatever you're eating. And what you're eating is very important too, because you need different amounts of these things in order to break down the specifics, whether it's fat or carbohydrates or whatever. And then from there, when it gets into your intestine and your gut bugs are, either helping it along or not, and your liver and pancreas are releasing enzymes that are going to either help you break down that stuff or be non-existent, and you're just your food's passing through you without you absorbing any nutrients. And then a really major one for me was figuring out if I had adequate bile production from my gallbladder, and I definitely didn't. All those things, my stomach acid, my enzyme production, and my bile was all screwed up. And so I started loading different supplements to start healing that. And I had all kinds of trials and tribulations that go with that on its own. But that, I think, was like the last critical piece for me. And it helped me dramatically heal my gut, dramatically. And then having my gut better, like, I know it just seems like, oh, it's just a problem with your gut. No, that's like literally everything starts
health.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because
if I eat junky for a weekend, I fall into depression.
Totally.
Literally, I feel depressed.
Yeah.
Because that's how much it affects me. I'm so sensitive to what I put in my body.
Yeah. Your bugs are all going like, what the heck? We're starving in here. The ones that you want to feed. And the bad ones are going, yay. And that's what you're feeling. So anyway, that gave me, because I was feeling better in that regard, and that wasn't my constant thing on my mind, it gave me space to think about what I wanted for my life. And it gave me motivation, to like actively start seeking. I literally became obsessed with just finding ways to heal any other things. I had a lot of things going on, and all kinds of things were popping up. And so that were related and some weren't related to the gut thing. But suddenly I realized there was tools all around me to figure this out on my own. And then that obsession turned into me wanting to share all this knowledge that I had like flooded myself with. And so, yeah, my mother, to answer your original question, my mom definitely influenced my relationship with myself, and becoming independent and finding ways to heal myself. And then, like through things like this podcast to hopefully heal the world around me. So she was always proud of me too, and always told me I could do anything I wanted, which is, I don't think everybody got told that, I don't think everyone had that so part feel safe. So that's something that I've always felt like I'll figure this out, like I'll figure this thing out. Mom's always had my back on that type of thing. So that's cool. And then, my father, he is a very intelligent man who makes very stupid decisions in the name of love. But who doesn't, right?
It's a lot of men.
It's just like generally people make stupid decisions in the name of love. I know I have made a lot of them. And I think studying, like, on this show, if you listen at all, that I'm kind of like obsessed with studying psychology. I think that has given me the ability to release the anger that I had for so long in his choice in women. Like I felt like it was he was making some sort of conscious choice to put these people in my life that were going to be toxic, or really just person, because there's really just one person for a very long time. And so where does that all come from? So, okay, to take you kind of back on my dad's side of things, like I said, my parents split up at 5. We ended up in my dad's, he got a girlfriend sometime in that, probably, I don't know, a year or two or whatever after my parents split. And we moved into her house. And even all my friends, like at the time would call her like my evil stepmother and my evil stepsisters, because at the time, I mean, that's my childhood self, of course, talking like they just weren't nice to us, or at least that's how I remember them from.
And do you remember your parents, like you said that you didn't feel safe once the split happened? you did feel safe before, so, and that you felt safe before. So I'm curious, like when they split up, was it like to you because you were 4? It was like you were blindsided by it, or do you remember there being reasons for their split?
Um,
Like, do you remember screaming and fighting,
yeah.
or oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I remember fighting. I remember there being reasons for the split. But I didn't think that there are reasons that they couldn't overcome from my childhood mind.
Mm-hmm.
But because very soon after, after like, they split, but they were kind of like back
Mm-hmm.
and forth, or I don't know if they were back and forth romantically, but my mom would come back and be around. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was like, basically when my dad got this new girlfriend and we moved into that house, it became very unsafe because now we were in someone
Mm-hmm.
else's
Yeah.
house. We
Mm-hmm.
were suddenly like on their terms, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
my house, it wasn't my dad's thing. It was like very much their terms. And he was not um what do I want to call, he was not
A protector.
yeah, he wasn't confrontational though, like in
Mm.
the that's not the right word, but he wasn't the person, he wasn't taking the, he did not,
Authoritative.
yeah, he wasn't authoritative, and he wasn't taking like a lead role in the household or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that, so
He wasn't like the healthy masculine.
he was not running the household, let's
Yeah.
put it that way. And not that like the man should run the household, but I'm just trying to paint a picture for like, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like I felt like, oh well, my dad's the one who is the boss here, it was definitely
Mm-hmm.
not that. She was definitely the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So my evil stepmother, it sounds like a,
Cinderella.
yes, and literally my friends would call me Cinderella growing up because I
Mm.
had the 2 evil
Yeah.
stepsisters. Anyway, um my sister and I would come to my dad and tell him like, hey, this is how we're being mistreated and we just don't want to be here, and we'd be in tears, and we're just like
Mm.
6-7 years old, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and crying, and of course we're kids, so I mean, who knows what's we're being over dramatic with. But
Yeah.
I remember very clearly for years coming to him from time to time and like having a real sit down conversation about how this does not feel safe. I don't want to be here. This is all the reasons I don't like it. And I had, there are silly reasons at the time, but they meant
Mm-hmm.
so much to me at the time. Like it was,
Mm-hmm.
the way things were said to me by my stepmom. She's not technically a stepmom, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My dad's girlfriend. And then, the kids would steal my stuff and things like that made me just feel not safe, like vulnerable and like
Mm-hmm.
exposed. And he would make a bunch of promises and never show up for them, a bunch of excuses. He always had a storyline of being like stuck and helpless. And I know, again, like we said earlier, like in that time, he was doing the best he possibly could. I'm sure, felt very much like abandoned by my mom and like thought he had, someone who's going to raise these 2 kids side by side. And now we're doing
Mm-hmm.
this separate, parenting thing where we got to go from one house to the next and back and forth every couple weeks. And they had split custody. So it was like every 2 weeks, literally, I would pack a bag and go back and forth. And eventually my bag became so big, it was like a massive trash bag because things became so important. I think that's like
Mm.
how I felt safe, was like having
Yeah.
things or something. So yeah, around, I don't know, 6 or so, I realized that it was going to be up to me to pull myself and my dad out of that situation. And I thought like I needed to be the one to pull him out too. Like I was going to have to save my
Mm-hmm.
dad or something. And I think probably being the oldest, pressured me to assume that responsibility, to be the role of a guardian or protector, and don't express emotions,
Mm-hmm.
like strive for control, don't express any kind of empathy, because it's just the opposite of control in a sense. It's being too
Mm-hmm.
fluid. And that really hardened me. And I brought that into my life like for a very long time. I'm still trying to reverse that, as you know, Jade. I think what I did is I became the pseudo man that I thought I needed as a father. So
Mm.
I was, this is like as I'm growing up, obviously
Mm-hmm.
not at 6 necessarily, but little by little, this is what crept into my personality. I was like becoming this man that I needed as a father, and I was
Mm-hmm.
loyal and trustworthy. I always showed up and kept my promises. But I was crass what's that word? Crass.
Yeah.
Crass? Does that
Crass.
sound right? It sounds
Mm-hmm.
wrong to me.
I know it sounds wrong, but it's right.
Yeah, I was bullish, I guess, is
Mm-hmm.
another good word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I was just like opinionated and stubborn and independent. It was, something that I thought was really important, but was also made me like, it was one of those words that made me feel, oh yeah, I'm doing things right. But it was really just me being almost like judgmental to anyone who wasn't doing what I was doing. And I was angry. I was super angry, and I did not know I was angry until many Eastern medical doctors,
Yeah.
people who were reading my auras and all kinds of things
Mm-hmm.
would tell me I was angry at my father, and specifically
Mm-hmm.
my liver was super angry,
Yeah,
which
our
is,
liver carries our anger.
yeah. So I was in therapy later. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Like my liver being angry at my father, which I have
Yeah.
expressed to my father. We've talked about all this, but
Mm.
it's so crazy because it literally after, I mean, that was one of the first things I got told when I was on that journey to like heal my gut and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
heal my all the mental issues I was having with just anxiety and panic and everything. And one of the first things that I was told was your liver is angry at your father. And it's crazy that one of the things that healed me most at the very end of that journey was figuring out the whole enzymes and bile production, which is all
Mm.
liver based
Mm.
stuff.
Mm.
And then of course, like the meditation and things I did to kind of release that anger and
Yeah.
talking to my dad about it. Um, yeah. But okay. So during that time though, when I was like stepping into this man mode, I literally could not be outmanned. You couldn't outman me in the office, in the pocketbook, in the bedroom. And I was attracting men who were like seeking a father figure, literally in my,
Wow.
yeah, like for all the way, like after my teens, like into my 20s, all the men I attracted were basically guys who had dads that weren't very present in
Mm-hmm.
their lives. They're seeking a father figure. And because I was already trying to outman everybody, this is completely subconscious, but
Yeah.
I was doing it. They could never measure up to the man I was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now I know those things because I've done work
Mm-hmm.
to dig them out of me, and I'm a little more, I'd hope, a little more selective about the traits um, that I inherited there,
Mm-hmm.
that serve me, and those that definitely do not. And I don't know. I consider myself to be intelligent and ingenuitive and literally overflowing with information, highly creative, and apparently not humble
Mm-hmm.
because I can list that off. But um, the counterbalance of the less positive traits was super necessary in order for me to even have discovered that I had any creativity in me, or discover that I could use that like um part of that masculine part of me to bulldoze through, and whatever, bulldoze through the pain or whatever it was that got me to figure out the knowledge I needed to heal. I don't know, it's weird. It's like you need both parts. You need to have a lot of the shitty stuff in order to get through to the good stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
even that goes with building your character especially. And I noticed too, my dad, he's not like an emotional guy. He's never been. He doesn't use emotional language or anything, and so maybe that's largely why I use my logic like over empathy.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I think that's, I mean, he was really, he was going to school to be like a chemist, I believe, and he got drafted into the Navy to be a nuclear engineer. So he was a super smart, well, not was, he is a super smart dude, but knowledge was always important to him, and that I knew. So like in school, it was really important for me to do good
Mm.
in school, and school is
Mm.
always, for whatever reason, like the physical, show up, do the work, get the test right, get the A's, whatever was easy for me.
Mm.
He paid me for my grades, so like the
Wow.
better the grades, the better payment I'd get. It wasn't massive, it was like
Yeah.
$20 for A's or whatever it was.
Yeah.
um and it worked. I mean, I
That's
achieved a
smart.
4.0 at some point.
Yeah.
So, hey, I
Hmm.
would do it with my kids.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think that's how my relationship with my father influenced my relationship with the world. A lot of ways.
Hmm. Yeah. You are the most, me and Jimmy said in that, our first, or I guess it was our fourth episode that we interviewed him. We both
Mm.
said that you're the most logical person we know, I think.
Hmm.
We both said that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how my brain tends to work.
Hmm. Not me, so.
You're pretty logical. I mean, you definitely analyze, and I think you have a lot of logic that you
But I think I'm emotion based.
maybe emotion first, but see, like that's why we're good together because
Mm-hmm.
I need more of the empathy and you need more of the logic. And then when we can just
Mm-hmm.
talk to each other,
It's
we balance
true.
it out.
Yeah, it's true. So, speaking of that, it's our 1 year anniversary of the show.
Yeah.
What has been your biggest takeaway so far from doing this show?
My biggest takeaway has definitely been strengthening my bond with you, Jade.
Hmm.
Um, and I knew that would, like I knew that was going to be part of it, but I didn't know that it was going to be so important to my life in so many ways that were unexpected. Like, I feel like we getting to do this show together and having to like always check in with each other, whether it's
That's
like,
true.
we're
Yeah.
checking in with each other because it's in some ways
It's
forced
almost
for the
like
show.
therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. But, it's work. So it's like we're showing up
Yeah.
for it. But of course, we text each
We
other on
can't
the side
avoid
for
it. Yeah.
yes, we don't exactly. We can't avoid it. Like I can't become introverted and not
Mm-hmm.
deal with you because we have
That's
to
true.
show up for it. And so
That would
building
just
like
be awkward.
I'm not coming. I'm not coming out of my hole. So that, yeah, like just creating a true friendship with a woman. So like trusting a woman, I think was a super important part for me that I didn't realize I was going to be able to do, because even in wanting to start the show, like when you came to me with the idea for the show, a big thing for me was like, do I want to do something with another woman? Because I think for me, as you can see from
Yeah.
that I just explained, I have a lot of distrust when it comes to women, or had,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird because I have so many close
Yeah, you do.
long-term girlfriends, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't have
But you may not place a lot in their hands, like in their actual
totally
hands. Yeah.
exactly, like I don't give them responsibility in this friendship, and
Yeah.
I don't take a ton of responsibility in the friendship unless they come and ask me, then I'm always there. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm very much a standoff friend. So like when you're with me, we're 100% like, let's talk. We're going to get through all the stuff we need to get through. You're going to feel seen and heard, hopefully, and I'm going to feel seen,
Mm-hmm.
like we're going to have that whole bonding and all that's going to go on. I can pick
Mm-hmm.
up from like not having talked to someone in a long time, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't nurture my friendships. And it makes me
Mm-hmm.
feel sometimes like I'm a bad friend. Like,
That's like like your campaigner description.
oh yeah?
Yeah.
Huh. In the friendships? I don't think I
Mm-hmm.
read that part yet.
Said something like that. Yeah.
I got to look into that. Yeah. And so, and the biggest takeaways for the show would be, it's given me opportunity to like depend on someone else. So that's like more than the trust thing, but someone who it's like a partnership,
Mm-hmm.
So I've never had a partner in business,
Which is opposite from what you were saying you pulled from your father relationship. Like
Yes. You
having
mean
to
the out
be, yeah.
manning thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in a sense, yeah, I see where you're relating that. But yeah, just like having someone where I can go, where I can trust, because we build this bond, and then I can trust you to show up for something,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do, and it heals me in a weird way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's too much responsibility to say that I need that all the time or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I have a partner, someone who is just as invested, that
Mm-hmm.
just that alone, like
Mm-hmm.
anything I've gone into in my life, been like, I don't really want to partner with a person because I'm going to care more. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to do all these things. And that's not the reality in this partnership. Like you care
Mm-hmm.
just as much as I do.
Yeah.
This is so important to your life too. And
Yeah. It's going to get edited and stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, if I'm having a crazy ass day where there's no way I can get to something and I say, Jada, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like you will show up for me. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like I can lean
Mm-hmm.
on somebody. That has never been something in my life. Like all the men I've dated were literally needing someone to lean on. So, like most, I should say, there's been one caveat, but
mine have always been like, I passive aggressively ask for help. Like there's that meme where it's like, hey, would you mind picking me up from this place? You can just run me over with a car if you want. Like, it's like, I'm so sorry for asking you for this favor, but I'd always like passive aggressively ask for something to be done. But like midway through, I'd be like, I'll just do it myself. I got to get it done right,
Yes.
So,
I totally see that. I know. I think we've had this conversation.
It's impossible to do that though. We can't, neither of us can carry this whole podcast on our own. So yeah, so that's been the case for me too.
Yes. I know we've had that conversation even before, like just how to communicate with people we're trying to employ for something on this podcast, like not like be super direct. And that's not
almost
easy.
Like you're talking to Alexa.
Exactly. A robot. Exactly. That's exactly it. That's a great tip for especially, anyone with that more, I want to call it like, I don't want to call it a feminine quality. What do you want to call that? It's like a softness. It's like a empathetic way.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to put
less abrasive. Anyone with like a less abrasive or direct way, less direct way of coming at things. One way you can communicate and know that you're going to get your point across is to pretend like you're talking to Siri or Alexa, because that's a great tip. It's a good magic trick, babe.
But if you can add some empathy too, because Alexa doesn't have feelings, but people do.
Yeah, you just add the yellow heart.
But when that person like, that's me. The yellow heart, no matter what. But yeah, if you like, if someone really triggers you, or you know that you really trigger them, just talking like Alexa, I feel like you kind of gave me the idea, and then another friend, but also with this show, I was curious, how has your truth changed, or has it?
For sure. I think a lot like what I was just saying. I think my truth has changed by doing the show, because I started with the idea that no one is as hardworking as me. No one cares as much as me. And I've been, proven wrong. Like, you definitely have shown up as a full-blown partner. Of course, with the show, I've grown mentally. My truth has grown in all kinds of directions, just because of the research, the amount of like studying we do for conversations with our guests. And my truth has grown in what I consider my competence level, like in being taken seriously as a podcast host, in being able to talk to these great minds and mentors of mine, and realizing that we're becoming one of these great minds ourselves, just because of the exposure. Like, that's freaking cool, man. Like, I don't think that I'm a master in any of these things, but I definitely know that at some point soon I will feel like I have mastery in a lot of the things that I really focus on.
We've learned a lot through these talks.
So
have you, I mean, I think we both know the answer to both of our answers to this, but have you wanted to give up? And if so, what kept you from doing so?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I have wanted to give up on this podcast, but just for like the day. Like, I've never been like, this is it. I don't want to ever do this again.
It's never lasted more than 24 hours.
No, but I've been like, and I mean, we're pretty vocal about that. We're like, look, I don't want to see or talk to anybody about this fucking podcast for at least a day. I'm in ovulation or wherever,
Especially after our events. Give me a week.
Yeah. I'm on day 28 of my cycle and I need a minute. I guess for me, it's day 18 to 21. That's the days where I should probably just be MIA. So yeah, I have felt that way, but like momentarily never. I mean, this is literally my greatest accomplishment. Like, it is.
Oh.
Yeah, it for sure is.
That's one of the Magic Mob's questions is, what is your proudest accomplishment?
Oh.
Dynamite for Life 816.
Cute.
Ask that.
Okay, I'll get into that deeper, but just to finish your question about if I ever wanted to give up, I
Uh-huh.
think that I knew
What
that,
kept you from doing it?
yeah, like I think I knew that this um was going to be one of those things. I felt, I mean, right away, we both were so excited about this thing. Like it felt
Mm-hmm.
like it was already towards our calling because we were already doing the seeking and the researching of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that would heal ourselves. And so we kind of knew this was going to be big for us. It was going to be a major project. And so it was never going to be easy. Like
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't even a question. It was never going to be mundane and like
Mm-hmm.
just talk about silly stuff and jokes and surface level shit. It was always going to be about speaking deeply into the hearts of the world, and just hoping to open people up to this world of knowledge that was helping us so
Mm-hmm.
much. It was always about adding value to people's lives, and it ended up adding so much value to my life as
Mm-hmm.
well. So yeah, I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of us, Jade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what keeps me, I'm not asking for reviews here, you guys, but what keeps me from giving up is when we do get like a review that says, or this makes me feel less crazy, or when I get someone in DM that's um, like, man, this is my favorite podcast. It's like literally
Mm.
every week. It's what helps me to continue on. And I'm like over here thinking like, is this like, is anything going to come of this, And then when
Yeah.
someone says that, I'm like, oh, that's what it's about actually. So,
That's literally it's and we have to keep remembering too, we were always worried about numbers and we're always worried about how many subscribers,
mhm.
reviews, and everything else.
But if
We
one of those people is struggling with suicide and then they listen to
totally,
this, yeah,
totally, and it
and
doesn't
they
even have
chose
to
to stay
be
alive,
right. It doesn't even have to be as dramatic as suicide even. It can be if one person goes,
less lonely.
dude, exactly. If one person feels not alone, one
Mhm.
person feels like, huh, you know what? I can take my health into my own hands and do the
Mhm.
research. I just got told on this podcast that there's like 20 books on this,
Yeah.
specific thing that's making pain
Yeah.
in my life. Just like, and we said that from the beginning. If one person makes that change, and it sounds so cliche and tacky, but it's true, dude. Like that
It
makes it
is.
feel
Yeah.
worthwhile. We did
Yeah.
our job.
Mhm. Yeah. Um okay, so what's the toughest spot you've been in mentally and how did you get through that?
Okay.
Not
What's
podcast related.
Yeah. What's the toughest spot I've been in mentally and how did I get through it? For what sticks out right away is the breakdowns, which I like to call awakenings now. And
Mm.
the first one was in 7th grade that I can remember. I was probably like 11 or 12. I think I talked about it in the Paul Selig episode. Was it
Mhm.
episode number
Yep.
2? Yeah.
Mhm.
If you want to hear about the details
We
on that, you
having them
can.
on again soon.
Yeah, we are. Um, but then again, I had another really like just mental shit show where slowly, I think this was in the end of my 20s. It was once I had met Chris, so my husband. So something, my therapist kind of brought this up to me when this was all going down, and I went and seeked out a therapist. Um, the fact that I had just kind of like found the person I knew I was going to be with for, I decided, okay, this is who I want to be with. So like the
Mhm.
searching that a lot of women, including myself, are so consumed with, like finding
Yeah.
this other person.
Instead you felt
Um,
certain.
yeah. So like I
Mhm.
felt certain. So cool. My brain was like, cool. We don't have to spend all of our time worrying about how we're going to
Mhm.
find this Prince Charming, which
So then
is
what do you spend your time on?
exactly. So
Yeah.
then what do I spend my time on? And what happened was all the other things that I'm, needed to look at accumulated as anxiety and
Mm.
panic attacks and depression, and just started like seeping in. And I was literally going, I am the happiest I've ever been in my life. And
Mm.
suddenly I'm having these bouts of just like
Mhm.
anxiety I can't get. And I thought I was going batshit
That's
crazy. I was like,
interesting.
oh, that's it. Because my biggest fear is like going batshit crazy and just
Mhm.
being locked away in a straitjacket or something. And so that just stirred up the anxiety obviously even worse and made me spiral into this terrible place where I really was just like afraid of my brain. Like I
Mhm.
literally saw my brain as this like thing that was constantly attacking me and I had no control over it, and it felt just fucking terrifying.
Mhm.
And so I this was the point. Like I was talking about earlier, this is the time when all the 15 years of being chronically constipated at this time, all the panic, anxiety, depression is happening. And so I turned to Western medicine and then eventually Eastern medicine and all the different doctors. I saw literally dozens of doctors. I read dozens of books. I tried countless therapies and alternative therapies, and it was like mind, body, spirit, all encompassing, because I had symptoms that were all related, mind, body, spirit related. Like it was all things. I was under attack. So by myself, by my own self, I was under attack. And it took a couple years before I could manage everything that was going on for me. I think
and this was around the time that I parted ways with Bellator.
Yeah.
So, I didn't even experience this with you, really.
Right.
I was over here just trying to get these babies out.
Yeah. And I mean, actually the last few months, I think you were there, I was starting to get anxiety, so bad, and panic attacks, like on stage at Bellator, but no one knew, because I would just be in my skin with my smile plastered on my face, and somehow was able to hide it. But I mean, my limbs would completely go numb on stage. Just every classic anxiety, panic attack symptom you could think of, I was dealing with, but completely alone. Cause I was oh, nobody knows what the hell's going on, because I'm a crazy person. So how could they relate to this? My family members have never talked about having anxiety, depression, panic, none of these things. So it was just so crazy how much we just depend on our little world that gets taught to us through our family, and we have no idea what's going, all the possibilities.
And even I had some really bad anxiety this morning, and I don't get anxiety often anymore now that through plant medicine and this show and lots of other tools. But this morning I had it really bad, and my first instinct was to apologize to the people I was around. So it's almost like there's also this part of you that feels like, I'm sorry you have to be around me when I'm like this.
Like I'm a nuisance.
Yeah. Which gives you, not only makes the anxiety worse, but adds shame to it, to where it makes it, when there's shame on anything, it makes it harder to acknowledge and harder to heal. So,
well, yeah, because especially in those situations, you're just in a fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
And so any added pressure is just that, it's pressure, and it's heavier to carry in the moment. And it's just like not helpful. Thank God, literally my saving grace was that Chris had been through all of this in his younger years. I mean, he still deals with some of it, time to time but he can manage it now, but he'd already gone through basically what I was going through to some degree. And so he was able to see it in me, first of all. I felt comfortable and safe enough with him to talk about it. And then he would help me, give me tips or hold me or whatever I needed. And when going to the Western doctors and you're telling them you're having these symptoms, they're like, oh yeah, you're basically, they tell you you're crazy in a sense, but and they say, here, get on this SSRI. And they tried to give me drugs so many times. My therapist, even after many appointments and me tracking my hormonal cycles and going, look, it's related to my hormones. She'd be like, okay, well, get on Serapin or whatever the one is like that's specifically for hormone cycles. I'm like, but wait, there's got to be a better way.
It's interesting too how the person that you're around, like you said, Chris was so helpful. Like there were relationships I was in where when I would have an anxiety attack, they would either leave because they were afraid to enable it, be an enabler that oh, well, if I reward this or give her attention for it, then she'll have anxiety later for attention.
Wow. Why would anyone want to have anxiety? Ever?
I've had multiple partners treat me that way. Like I was using it for attention, and then they would make it worse by trying to avoid enabling it, because then I would, it would become a pattern. And it made me feel so much more misunderstood and so much more alone in the struggle. Whereas this morning, the person that I was with, I instantly said, I'm having some real bad anxiety right now. I feel like an attack is even coming on. And they just massaged my neck and my upper shoulder. And just that touch, without even they didn't try to fix it. They didn't try to tell me like, oh, just breathe. Just them being there and like doing that
Yeah.
physical touch, it slowly but surely went away. So
And
it's really,
because you feel safe with this person generally so far.
yeah. So it's really interesting how our loved ones' responses to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trigger it or don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's tough. I mean, I can see.
But it's also their filters
Right.
and their triggers. It's not their fault.
Exactly.
So,
and I'm sure maybe they have an experience where that is true for them. You know, I don't know.
mm-hmm.
But maybe people use the word anxiety where it's not placed, but all I know is that the anxiety that I experience, I would never want to be in that situation for any reason. I don't care. I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life to experience any anxiety.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can be the boy who cries wolf with that, but I'm sure there's instances where that happens. But so through all this, it birthed my passion for hormone and psychology education, because that's where I really like started finding some answers and started digging in deep and realizing that for me, that's, you know, a large part of where this is all spawned. It got me into nutrition and fitness and alternative therapies, and just my whole healing journey really lit me up into my knowledge path, I guess.
Yeah. So stuff about you've been in mentally and how you got through that. So it was kind of like through, I guess, finding how it could be useful.
Yeah, how I got through it is basically because of all of these tough symptoms came up for me, and it pushed me and motivated me to start seeking out the answers through education. Yeah, like it. And then that's what I did. I just started reading books and going to different doctors and learning what I could from here and there, and then testing it on my body.
There.
Yeah, and then seeing how it affected me. And literally it took a couple years to get it all, you know, get the whole regimen together. But then I finally was like, you know, what?
Worth it.
I feel fucking great. And I'm ready to start a podcast because I learned so damn much.
Yeah. So what about when it comes to modeling? What has been your biggest lesson in that part of your career?
When it comes to modeling,
or what has your career as a model taught you, maybe?
Okay. My career as a model has taught me what I say a lot. You already are. I already am. And the way that happened, we spend so much time wondering what people think about us, wondering if our mask that we're wearing is on straight or if someone's going to be able to see through it, you know? And we become so consumed, or at least I became so consumed by ego. And when I say ego, I mean it's like this part of us that's concerned with, it's not just the part of us, you know, a lot of people think of ego and they think it's, at least this is how I saw it. I thought ego was just this idea of when someone compliments you, your head gets big, and it's like this part of you that you become cocky or something like that. I didn't really have a clear definition, but what I'm talking about here is ego as this part of us that is so concerned with being seen, you know, like being validated in that way. And at the root of it all, ego is about surviving, right? Like the reason that we need the ego is because it's a thing that allows us to step out of danger's way. You know, it keeps us alive, literally. And so being seen, especially like in the sense of a model where you're out there on the cover of a magazine or whatever, and all these people are going to see it, and that makes your ego say, look, I'm alive, like, phew, it's okay, I'm safe, everybody sees me, that means I must exist, that means I must be alive, so I'm safe, I'm not any closer to death today, you know? And I know that's so weird and it seems so basic, but that is literally like where in my opinion, ego lives, is like this root place. It's just about am I alive? Am I alive? Am I alive? It's just constantly asking.
Mm.
And and if you allow it to be seen, especially in just these rudimentary ways, like through modeling, it gives it that satisfaction. And I was seeking validation from others by being seen physically, literally physically,
Mm.
by choosing to be a
Mm-hmm.
model. I think that's a big part of why that job became a big part of my life. Like it's so validating in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously can go to a really ugly place if it
Yeah.
becomes not validating one day, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have to reassess what's going on here. Your ego has to literally feel like it's dying. I mean, it's painful when someone suddenly doesn't notice you anymore and you don't exist to
Mm-hmm.
them. People in the world don't see you as quote, beautiful, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
see you at all, maybe because you don't look a certain way. So now I feel like I'm hopefully transitioning, but I'm sure at some point I will feel the death of the ego that lived in this modeling world as I transition out of the modeling world one day. But now I feel like it's more about being understood, and that's why we have this
Mm.
podcast. Like I feel like being understood is the new scene for me, like it's the new
Mm.
place that my ego is hoping to get validation in a sense, and it seems a more healthy place too, because it's maybe has some longevity to it. and
Mm-hmm.
and it's, by the way, it's not bad, I don't think, to seek validation. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very human,
Yeah.
but I think that it can become unhealthy, and so just being aware,
Yeah.
of where that's
Mm-hmm.
coming and going for you.
Yeah. Validation can be very healing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole "you already are" statement um, is just about removing all the layers of disbelief that veil that truth that you
Mm-hmm.
already are. And so
Mm-hmm.
putting aside all the masks that I've worn as a model and allowing my authentic self, my authentic truth to like come out and be like, I
And is
actually
that how you
already
were
am.
inspired to do hashtag keep it realish?
I was inspired to do hashtag keep it realish just because it's about the things that I thought I needed to see when I was
Mm.
literally going through my young years and moving
Mm-hmm.
into becoming a model, and just comparing myself
Mm-hmm.
constantly to these images of
Yeah.
people that are just
Even
unrealistic.
now, even now that I know, I'm able to recognize when
Yeah.
something is face tuned and filtered. I
Uh-huh.
still compare myself to that image.
100%.
And this guy, I've told you this story, but this guy that um, I was going to see one day,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that he liked this picture. It was on my newsfeed. I wasn't Insta stalking, but I followed this girl and he liked this picture that was super freaking airbrushed,
Uh-huh.
super face tuned. And I had worked till like 3 a.m. the night before. I had bags under my eyes. I wasn't going to do anything with myself. And I was like, damn, now he thinks that that's what women are supposed to look
Yep.
like. I do not want him coming over. And it put me in such a funk. And I took it out on him without him even knowing. Like I was mad at him genuinely over this
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
And it was because of me comparing myself to
Some
a image that is not real. That is not what that girl looks like.
right.
And I compared myself to it to the point where I was mad at him.
Yeah. And even if that girl it did look like that, I mean, obviously there's a whole nother thing about us comparing ourselves to
Mm-hmm.
other people, but we're competitive by nature, so I get
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, I have had the same experiences I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
all people have. Like, you just stalk somebody online, whether you stalk it or not.
Mm-hmm.
um and I've seen my husband like a picture where I'm like, really? Like, come on, you do social media management for a living, you fucking don't realize how. And it's not about not realizing it.
Yeah.
It's like, they're just men. They're just, sorry
Yeah.
guys, but
I think
sometimes
the other
rise
thing
up.
for women that's different from men is that men see it as just alike, whereas women are like, they see it and they think that's what you must like. So
Totally.
if they're liking a bunch of pictures with women that look a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
we think that's what they want to see.
Yep.
And then we feel like we have to be that.
Yep.
Whereas men, it's just a double tap.
Yeah.
Literally, there's no thought process behind it.
Yeah, it's true, but I don't know. That's kind of part of the keep it realish thing too, is getting guys on board. Like, to understand that what's healthy is what we should all be after.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really tough thing. It's a tough ask for guys. But I think little by little, they're going to understand why that's so necessary. They're going to have daughters and it's going to be really obvious. They're going to have girlfriends. Women are such a critical part of men's lives, and they just forget how critical women are to their lives. So if they can find ways to be supportive, the sooner they figure that out, the sooner they figure out being supportive of women's health is important, the better off we'll all be, because we have to do this shit together, guys. We have to do this all together.
That's funny. All right, let's get into our questions from the Magic Mob.
Okay.
We have a handful. So at Trev58, I thought this would be a good first one. Do's and don'ts when going down on your woman. Also, he asked for you to talk about the importance of giving recognition to your woman.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Trev, T-Rev,
Yeah.
whatever you are, or T-Reeve, we don't know. Anywho, you have some curiosities of the nether regions. So, going down on your woman, I would say, let's just clean slate here. Start with understanding why foreplay is so important.
Yes.
Because there's so
in my opinion, sex isn't good without it.
And okay, so we'll get into that. Okay, so first off, porn culture, raising our men for the most part at this point, right? Like especially our young men, but even our older men. All of the men are watching porn, and porn does not have very many good examples of the time and effort that should be allocated for foreplay.
No, porn encourages selfishness for sure.
For sure, because it's about get it done.
Yeah.
And
that's why you're watching it.
Right. And so when you're asking this question, Trev, whatever your name is, you're asking about being with a woman, a human woman. You're not asking about a robot, a porn star, because they're not, that's all acting. It's not, it's not real, guys. So I think just like, let's first bust the myth that penis and vagina sex is what we have to aim for.
Yes.
That does not have to be the like end all be all when it comes to sex. There is so much more fun things to get into outside of penis and vagina sex. And it doesn't have to be the last thing you do. We've got episodes on this now. I feel amazing about it. We have episodes on like, who's our recent girl? Sarah
Rose.
Yeah, Sarah Rose. Oh, there's just so much information out there at your fingertips, not on the porn sites, that can give you...
Yeah, please don't use porn as a resource.
That can give you so much knowledge about all the experiences you can have that are incredibly intimate besides penis and vagina sex, P&V sex. Because P&V sex it can be good, it can be great, but it is not everything. And
it's hard to say do's and don'ts because every woman is different. Like some women like one thing, another women don't like another thing. So the one thing I can say that is always a do is asking her what she likes. Because not only is that going to show her that you're putting forth the effort to please her, which is a huge turn on, but you're going to find out for yourself what helps her specifically, because every woman is different, and that can be frustrating for men.
So I would say the most important things, I think communication, what you're talking about there, Jade, is number 2 for me.
Communication is part of the foreplay.
Yeah. Well, so I got a 3-step program for you here to lock this down. All right. Most important things that have to happen in order to create mind-blowing intimacy. Number 1, safety. You got to make your partner feel
that is
wanted,
so big.
Secure. You got to make a safe place.
And also that like she's desired and like nothing on her or that would come out of her is gross.
Exactly. That is exactly what I want to say.
That's safety.
Yes, safety. So that's that security, that safe place to express sexuality comes from doing things like giving authentic
Mm-hmm.
compliments that are truthful to you. You know, you feel
Mm-hmm.
literally are authentic and you do admire in that person, and especially that don't shame them in any way. This whole thing
Yeah.
is about ridding shame. So
Yeah, because I think sex is supposed to be like loud and wild and messy, but a woman can't get there if she feels like that's gross to you,
yeah,
you
or in
know?
her head in any way
Mhm.
about this thing is shameful because God knows what reason she might
Yeah.
experience shame around it, because you just heard all
Mhm.
the reasons I experienced shame,
Mhm.
from ridiculous things from my childhood. But women bring that into the bedroom all the time. And so
Yeah.
if you as a man can be a partner who basically squelches all those things
Mhm.
for her and says, I fucking adore you
Mhm.
in all these ways, it can be any.
And that you want her to come too, because if the goal in her head
Mm,
feels like it's just the goal is just for the man to come,
yes.
oh my God, it changed. But when the goal is for both of y'all and that's known and she goes in there knowing that y'all are both going to experience that pleasure, that
Yes.
changes everything.
Guys, I mean, I don't know,
Because it's a given that the man's gonna come every single time, and that
right,
like but it's not for the woman. So if a
right.
woman knows that every single time she is going to also, that's transformative.
I completely agree. And I think, sorry if my parents are listening to this to get too graphic, but guys, if you say things to your woman, like, again, they need to be genuine. I'm just going to give you some examples
Yes,
because I
please.
think men need them. Um, I love the smell of your skin. I love the way your
Mhm,
skin smells.
mhm,
I love the way you smell down there. That's a huge
mhm.
thing that women are worried about a lot of the
Yeah,
time. Again,
especially if you're taking B vitamins.
you never know with those you smell like a B vitamin, girl. Um, you might say, I love the way that your voice sounds when you moan. Or
Mm,
or I love the
I
way
didn't
your
mean to
body
moan then.
shakes. I love the way your body shakes, when you orgasm. Like
Oh,
ways that
yeah.
you can say that you adore or are
Mhm,
completely ridding any shame that she might have around
mhm,
parts of her sexuality and just making her
mhm.
feel safe. Okay, so we've covered that. So the other thing, step two, like you were talking about, Jade, if
I
you
want to add to that real quick though.
please,
Also making sure that she knows that you're enjoying this, because if she feels like it's a chore, she's not going to be able to get there. Like I get in my head like, oh, I feel like it's already been like 10, 15 minutes. I feel bad that he's still having to do this.
yeah,
If I'm like that with a guy, the orgasm's very weak. But there's been guys where like after 45 minutes, I've already had like 13 orgasms. I'm having to pry them off me. That's why the orgasms were so strong and plentiful, is because I'm
right.
having to pry them off me because they want to do it so much, you know?
Yes.
So
And
that
that's
makes
the
a huge difference. Like you acting like you want to be down there.
guys that we gals, even if we don't end up in, relationship forever with you, we
Yeah, I
remember you
didn't stay with
forever.
any of them, but
Yeah. But
I remembered
you
you.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not have just been the right time, or who God knows
Yeah.
what other
Hmm.
circumstances were there. But the thing is, who I remember most sexually are people who made me feel the most beautiful in
Yeah.
bed, the most
The
like
most. Hmm.
safe, in that regard. Like
Hmm.
nothing I could do was gross. Nothing
Yeah.
part of me was gross to them. It was instead like
Hmm.
invigorating and amazing.
Hmm. They couldn't get enough.
No, they
Hmm.
couldn't get enough. So, communication, guys, step two of this three part is, like Jade was saying, literally language and asking what she or he likes and wants, you know, literally ask. I mean, that's ASKGET. We know this. You got to ask or you're not going to know.
Hmm.
And if you've done the steps prior,
And that shows so
safe.
much confidence and vulnerability, which is super
Mm.
sexy.
Yeah, so that's another point I was going to say. Firstly, if you've done the step before to make her feel safe, then she's going to be much more open and
Yep.
willing to say what she wants, because a lot of times women feel the need to just give only positive feedback and never say
Hmm.
that they need or want
Hmm.
anything.
That's
That's
so
like,
true.
yeah. So this is important to not assign the unattainable cultural ideas and ideals that are out there about men supposed to have like innately just know how to be an intuitive lover and women needing to not be too forward or too needy in bed. These are things that like our culture
Yeah.
kind of breeds into us, and it's all bullshit. So
So true.
do not assign to that shit. Ask vulnerably and authentically what your partner wants. And if you've already laid down the safety stuff prior, you've made her feel secure to express her sexuality, then she can express it in words when you ask. And then the third thing is connection. So like obviously the
Eye
first,
contact too.
eye contact's
That gives a
good.
lot of connection.
That's good. I wasn't going to even use that, but that's good. So putting together the safety and the communication stuff is obviously connecting, and then eye contact, like Jade said. But I think connection too is all about using all of your senses, but besides your eyes for the eye contact thing, which, you know, we use when we can see each other, but if maybe it's a dark setting or whatever, you might not have as much of that clarity for the eyes. But so mainly using your ears and your touch senses to perceive how your partner is responding to what you're doing, I think is really important. And that's where you become the intuitive lover that we're talking about, and that you're asking about becoming, T-Rev. And like I said before, I think many women are super insecure about giving anything but positive feedback. So the best advice that I've ever gotten about being intimate with another person is to sync with their breathing.
But I was reading, when you're making eye contact with them, that almost happens. So if you feel like syncing with their breathing is awkward, if you're making eye contact with them long enough, supposedly your breathing ends up syncing on its own.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that tip. Okay. So, and then remember to relax your tongue, as London Angel Winters said. I don't know what episode number that was, but you could find it on our library.
So good.
Relax your tongue. It's so good. I use that.
We need to have her husband on.
Yes. And then just continue to breathe, guys. I think that's like really rounds out communication, is like breathing, eye contact, relax your tongue.
Breathing. You also, like, that's so much of, like, for a woman being able to orgasm, it's like her taking deep breaths too. And it's like, if a man isn't really breathing, then like she's probably going to feed off of that energy. So him remembering to breathe is going to, like, it's going to be, they're both going to be in that energy space, you know?
Yeah. Yes. I think so too. Yeah. And I know you were probably asking about like the specific techniques to do with your hands or tongue or whatever. But I think, first of all, like Jade was saying earlier,
might want to give him a few of those recommendations anyways, huh?
I was going to say that we're women, we don't always like the exact same thing. We like to change day to day. As you men know, it's not easy to just like tack down a specific technique. So I would say that if you're connecting on that intimate level and like getting her to a place where she feels safe, having clear communication and connecting that way, then honing down the specific techniques will be pretty obvious, especially if you're being vulnerable, allowing her to like guide you, and she's in a place where she feels like she can be vulnerable. Because that was always hard for me. Like, I never wanted to say what I wanted because I felt
that was so hard for me too.
Yeah, it's really hard.
To give direction is really hard, especially like in the moment when you're like, please don't move, because it's like, I'm very close, don't move. But it's so hard to say it out loud for some reason for a woman.
Safety. I swear it's about safety. It's about feeling like nothing your man
you're not
wants
annoying.
more. Yeah, like nothing your man wants more than for you to have an orgasm, or he's just like so involved in pleasure just by like pleasuring you. That's really what it is, folks. What it is. Okay, mom and dad, you could listen now. We got more of that type of stuff. What we got? But he asked one more thing about did he ask another question? I think you had two in there.
Oh yes. He asked for you to talk about the importance of giving recognition to your woman.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure on the context, but as far as like, when is he thinking that the recognition is required, or when he's supposed to be giving that? But I really don't think that there's any time that's not important. Like, We all want to be seen and heard. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very core need for humans.
Gosh, feeling unappreciated in a relationship is one of the
Yes.
worst. That will break a relationship.
Oh, 100. So yeah, there's never a bad time to recognize your partner for the efforts they're making.
Mm-hmm.
And on the podcast here, we call it Speaking Beauty.
Figure out their love language.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Recommend the book.
That's how you'll or just take the quiz. Skip the book, take the quiz, because if you're speaking their love language, you could buy her flowers to try to recognize her, but if that's not her love language, you might as well be speaking Chinese while she's only understands English, so like figure out her love language and use that as how you recognize her.
Great idea. And it is a skill. It does take practice. You can try out some shit, and
women still love, I feel like men don't really do this anymore, but like leaving little notes, like I feel like that's so rare these days, but like leaving little notes on the car or on the pillow, that makes a woman feel seen and recognized, as if you're doing it as a little thank you, if you want to recognize her, I feel like little things like that, just be creative, because it, if it's like always the same, it may just seem mundane to both of you guys, but if you mix it up, I feel like that makes someone feel very recognized.
I think men are afraid to feel like they're pussies, or they are
I think that our culture these days almost makes fun of that
romantic shit, like being chivalrous and being romantic.
No, like I remember seeing actually the other day, a girl made fun of a guy for bringing flowers on the first date. And I was like, this makes me so mad.
So
like,
mad.
What happened to guys bringing flowers on the first date? Like that is so sweet. I would love that.
Yeah, me too. So I don't know what kind of rubbish is going on around there with millennials.
Something
out there, but look, guys, you know what it is.
Light bulb.
Yeah.
I just saw it go off.
I know. No, but you know what it is that we're being told in this culture that everything's instantaneous. Nothing's worth taking the time to do. Everything should just be like automatic and easy give me's. And it's just not, that's just not long lasting. That's not what the real intimacy, what real intimacy requires, is definitely more perseverance. So,
and I think also with like dating apps now, it's like on a first date, it's like people now think maybe that like there's 5 or 6 on both ends, 5 or 6 options on both ends. And so it's like, you bringing flowers is like almost cheesy, because it's like, what do you think this is, and it's a bummer, because I was listening to, I think, Matthew Hussey, how he was saying like, before dating apps, someone would show up with flowers and it would be a courtship, and then he'd go home and he'd process, like he would have time to process, whereas now there's no time to process. Like by the time she's home, she has 10 more matches on the app.
Oh, that literally breaks my heart.
I know. And so I think that it's become this thing of like, when you're too romantic up front, it's like, whoa, what do you think this is? Like, we still have all these other options that we need to decide who we actually want, instead of like it being a first date. This is a courtship. You're the one I'm seeing if I want to pursue anything with.
Yeah. And I think it's, we're so busy trying to play some game, and trying to play this game of like, oh, again, it's the ego just being.
If I sense games,
yeah, but I mean, we're talking about if you're dating on an app, and because I was the woman who read, Why Men Love Bitches, and thought this was a good read, because it's gonna.
It didn't set well with me.
Well, let me tell you, it fucking works to the degree of men will want to be around you, but is it for the right reasons?
You gave me that book, I think, or told me to get it, and I remember not wanting to read it simply because of the title, and then you were like, tried to explain it to me, so I read it, and I remember I'm on an airplane, and there's like this really hot doctor sitting next to me. He had already like said he was, or I don't know how I knew he was a doctor, but I knew, and he saw the title. And he was like, can I read that? And it was like a 3-hour flight. And I have funny flight stories, but he was like, can I can I read some of that? And I think he's going to take it for like 5 minutes. I'm on this long ass flight. I want to finish the book.
Yeah.
He reads it for like over an hour.
Oh my God.
And then he gives it back to me. Yeah. He gives it back to me and he says, you listen to what that book says, you will get whatever man you want. And I remember something about that. I was like 24, so 25. I remember him saying that and being like, I still didn't sit well with me. I was like, I don't want a man that wants the woman like that plays these games. Like I want to be my authentic self. Like London says, like show all of your sides and like every flavor of you. And I want them to want me for that. I don't want them to want me because I stuck to this script,
right?
You know? But yeah, it never set well.
It's about how to catch a husband. It's not how to catch a soulmate. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's a perfect way to say it.
It's the first book we're not recommending on the podcast.
That's really funny. It is.
But I mean, it did work if you want it solely ego-based, solely based in that surface level shit. So.
Well, we've all been through enough. We've all had our heart broken enough. We do not need to be thinking about how long we should make them wait before we reply to their text or anything like that. Like we've been through enough in life. Let's cut that crap.
Oh, I know. I wish just saying that out loud would change it, but it ain't gonna. We try. What else you got for me?
Yes. So, recognize your women.
Yeah.
Okay. So now John, we're taking a pause. So now we're at a little bit over an hour and a half, and we have the rest of the Magic Mom questions and the magic tricks. Do you want to stop here? And I think this is a good stopping place for part 1 because steps 1, 2, and 3 of how to go down on your woman, that is gold. I think that would be like Kyle's episode. I think that it would literally get 3,000 people to listen. Like we did with
Do you
Kyle's.
think that because we didn't give any like specific technique tips is the problem?
They don't know that.
I know.
They're gonna have to listen all the way to the end of this episode.
And then what you do with your fist is
you take your right thumb and then your left thumb.
No, we don't like thumbs, Jade.
I do.
First of all, you trim your nails real close to the nubbins.
No, I think
and
honestly,
then
no, but if we could do it like
I want to make this noise.
Oh my God.
Wait,
if we could do it like the Kristen Bell video that I showed you, where it shows you saying step 1 and then just the first line, step 2, the first line, step 3, the first line, that will get people to tune in. And I honestly think that clip, that alone would be as strong as Kyle's 3-way clip.
Do we need to do anything that's like shock factor right now? Like, here's what you do. Step 1, you take your fist. Okay, step number 2. This is really important, guys.
No, because I think that the way we did it, they're going to take it seriously and they're going to actually want to tune in for the tips. Okay. If it sounds funny, it's not going to be as powerful. But if it's like, oh shit, I'm going to learn how to really go down on a girl. You know? Yeah. But I don't think we should give away what you said. I think it should just be maybe me asking the question, but not with his name, because I feel weird putting him on blast there. But like maybe if I just ask the question and then we have like a minute to like fill the space. So, but at least don't say what the 3 tips are.
Okay.
At least that. Like if we at least say like, I mean, we'll have to listen back to it, but if we at least say like,
oh yeah, I was gonna say it's probably better if we pull just the
and then it's
name of the magic mobbers and not their account handles. But
but also me saying, well, let's go ahead and give them some techniques, anyways. Like we could end the clip with that.
Okay, yeah,
because then it sounds like we're doing that. And it's at the very end of the episode, so
yeah. We gotta listen all the way through.
They're gonna be just like, where is this? She keeps talking about her father and tampons.
Talk about the clitoris.
That's really funny. What is it
clitoris
called?
Is actually 9 inches long. Some women, it's 12.
Did you know a clitoris what?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that?
Did you know a clitoris is actually an undeveloped penis?
Makes sense.
John, these are all bloopers.
Makes a lot of sense.
No, so like when you don't become a boy, the clitoris stays small, but when you become a boy, it grows into a penis.
That's why some girls have very big clitorises. They would have
I
had
have a big one.
big penis. I would have had a very small penis.
I'm thankful mine is big because, like I said,
I bet.
I don't always have to take my pants off.
I bet, but also it might be a little bit shocking if you suddenly sit somewhere or some angle or something. You're wearing something that could be.
Yeah, I can't wear like lace that's too big because it like gets stuck in the lace. I'm serious.
Oh
sometimes I look down and I'm like, it's poking out through the lace.
My undeveloped penis is taking.
Isn't that weird though? It's an undeveloped penis.
Did you know that it is like 12 inches long because it actually is like a what do you call that? A wishbone in like a turkey, you know? Like
I had no idea.
Wishbone in a turkey. That's actually it's shaped like here's the legs and here's the clitoris.
Are you sure?
Like where you call the clitoris now.
Mine's like not.
But it goes all the way down like this, and these are all nerve endings all the way into the around the vaginal opening. Write that down, John. Write that down.
Actually, John, just cut out. Keep this episode going, and just cut out where we talked about ending the episode. No, but it doesn't make sense.
Why?
Okay, so the nerve endings go around the vulva?
Yeah, the clitoris actually, it goes all the way around. So how do I describe this? Okay, here's...
So that's why when they like lick in a certain area...
But not so like licking is probably only going to be sensitive enough to be like orgasmic when they're licking on the what we call the clitoris under the hood. But then down
under the hood?
Yeah. No, under the clitoral hood.
The button.
Then, the button. the beam.
Yeah.
But then on the side, we got to have a sex with Emily on or something. I mean, come on.
I want her on so bad.
Okay, well,
that
so
sounded
down the
awful.
sides. Down the sides is still lots of nerve endings that go underneath your labial folds in that area. So like,
so can they lick those?
Well, you could lick it if you want, but that's probably not enough pressure. But like pushing in those areas is usually like, especially if you're already aroused, is
I
usually,
have never heard of this. 12 inches.
Very importantly, the what do they call that? The pubic mound, right? So the mound where like, you know, your pubic hair grows on the top of your vagina, like above the clitoris, the whole area above the clitoris.
Yeah.
Which men have a pubic mound as well, right? So that area though on a woman is very connected to the nerves that are inside.
Yes, because when you're on top and you're moving, even if that part is the one that's like being touched against like their pubes because it's more stimulating or like their stubble, whatever is like able to rub against that. I feel like if you've already had an orgasm, that can make you have an
really
orgasm again.
Sensitive. Well, and also it's the sensation is becoming also pressure on inside your vagina, like inside your like where your G spot, which is really a G area and not a spot. Anyway, anywho.
Okay, John, we'll end it with her saying anywho. So that's something that we can bring up next week because now we have this for this one if we want to do a sexual video for each one. But next week, that one about penis size, I was thinking that when a guy is smaller, he's able to touch the G spot with his penis when a bigger penis can't because
with his penis head.
Yes, because I've never come. I'll say this again on the other episode of.
Should we stop this now? Are you okay?
Yeah, let's go. Let's stop. Let's start sending it.
Okay.